Hello everyone, we are back and it is time to look at my swatches. So if you're new, my name's Marianne. This is a series I'm doing where I am using fiber from my stash to design a blend, figure out how to spin it up. Well, I know how to spin, but spin it up, exactly how I want to configure it, go through the whole process, create a vision that I have in my head, which is roughly drawn out here. We drew this in the last part of the series. So it's going to be a long series. And if you're joining me as it happens, I'm having the best time on my Insta right now because I kind of drew this on my body and shared this picture, which is the one we drew in part 2, which is already posted, and started collecting from the community pattern ideas. And I haven't narrowed down to 3, really 2 for this vision. And 1 is my backup plan if I can't make the swatches work and stuff, which I can show you in this one, but in my stories over the last little bit, and maybe I'll tuck them into highlights. If you go there and check, I'll see if I can remember to tuck them into a highlight, because there were so many beautiful cardigans. And I don't look at cardigan patterns very often because I feel like I don't wear them as often as I would like, but that's true of most of my sweaters and knits because I run hot and I work from home. So anyways, let's get to the swatches. So we created a blend that we pretty much love. We looked at the samples of this hand spun yarn, of which I have this left. This is what's left from my swatches. And now we're going to look at my swatches. So I did 2 swatches. If you'll remember, I had 3 little skeins I showed last time. 1 was singles, and this is just my control so I can look at my singles and make sure I'm being kind of consistent. But the other 2, 1 was a 2-ply and 1 was a 3-ply. So taking these singles, if you're not in the spinning world, welcome. It's so much fun here. It's taking singles like this that I've spun from the fiber. And this is twisting 2 strands together to make a 2-ply yarn. And this is 3 strands together to make a 3-ply yarn. And what we've definitely noticed when we looked at our yarn itself was that yardage wise, the 2-ply goes further because it takes less fiber for you to make a yard of it. But the 3-ply was probably more rounder and fuller and a little more consistent, because you're kind of putting 3 strands together. So I would say my expectation was that this one would be lighter and loftier, the 2-ply, and the 3-ply would be better stitch definition and probably a little more consistent. And guess what, guys? I was right. So I'm going to start with the 2-ply. Look at it. It's actually fun because from this angle you can see also the see-throughness. So I knit this swatch in 2 sort of parts. I did part of it as the Traveler series, which is an Andrea Mowry. Her Instagram and design name is Dre Renee Knits. And I knit her stuff all the time, if you notice in my feed and my videos and stuff, because I'm contemplating using the stitch pattern and doing her Traveler shell, which I'll show you in a minute. So I did a little bit of her Traveler in the swatch, and then I did plain stockinette, which for people who aren't seasoned knitters, and this took me an embarrassingly long period of time to figure out when I started knitting, is knit stitches when you're knitting on the right side and purl stitches when you're knitting on the wrong side. So this is my swatch, which has been blocked. So I have washed it, set it, so I can really see what that finished fabric will be like, how it will sit, what it'll look like. So again, one of the first things we were looking at was color. And I contemplated, it's definitely darker in the video than it is in real life. But I definitely contemplated going a little bit darker by adding a little bit more of this. And I do think I'm going to go with that plan, but it's not going to change the construction of the fiber or anything in here. So we'll see. I might sample that as a sort of a last step before I commit to starting a project and doing a big spin, a sweater spin for it. But the color is great. It's not too close to skin color. Now remember, I have a tan right now, so that's kind of more normal skin color for me during these wintry months. So loving the color. I do find it a little transparent. I did this on 3.5 millimeter needles, and my gauge, which I have written down so I don't snafu on the math here, before blocking in stockinette was 21.5 stitches across in a 4-inch period here. And then after I blocked, it was 20.5. Because when you block, often I'm sort of just, it's relaxing a little bit. You expect your gauge to get smaller. You expect it to go down, so less stitches in a 4-inch period. But it just went down by like 1 stitch. So here to here, and then row gauge, which is doing the sort of vertical rather than the horizontal. Again, I had to measure just a small piece and then multiply, but 28 and 27. And then on the Traveler, I have my gauge listed here. Pre-block was 22.5 by 44, and post-block was 21.5 by 42. So it went, again, got smaller, less stitches are fitting in there. For the actual pattern, by the way, it's 24 by 40, but we'll get to that when we start planning our actual knitting. First, we got to finalize our blend and see how much fiber we want to prep to spin. But those are the specs. I also did measure my WPI was around 17 or 18. And if we look at that, that's wraps per inch. So how many times I wrapped it around beside each other, not tightly or anything, but just kind of loosely on here in a 1-inch period. And at 17 or 18, it's kind of at the very low end of fingering and the high end of sport. I would call it like a light sport or a heavy fingering weight. And if you, like, I can actually set this in here, I would definitely call it like a light sport, but it toes that line in between fingering and sport. So that is swatch 1. And then swatch 2 is the 3-ply. Again, so this one I went up to a 4 millimeter, which is a US 6 needle. And I do believe the stitch definition is better. The bounciness is better. It's thicker, which is not necessarily better. Like, this is thinner and a little more rustic and a little less stitch definition, but it's still gorgeous. So it really depends on what I want for a finished look. Structurally, it's definitely more secure. I would say that this one leans towards a heavy sport or light DK. So let's look at the specs on this one. I'll move that one kind of out of the way. Let's look at the specs on this one. Again, I used a 4 millimeter needle. This is my 3-ply. My WPI was 15. I'm kind of doing this backwards now. So 15 is still in this sport weight range, 12 to 18. Again, these are just guidelines though. And when I put it in DK, it does feel pretty DK-ish to me, so I would say this is close to a DK, or generally a DK weight. 3-ply. Again, nothing, could be good, could be bad. It really depends on which pattern I go with, or how I want to construct my sweater, and how I want it to feel, and how I want it to drape, and how sturdy I want it to be, and all these things. All right, so the pre-block in the stockinette, which is this section here, 20 stitches across, 30 stitches up in 4 inches. And then when I blocked it, it went to 19.5 by 28. And then for the Traveler here, 20 stitches across by 44 up and 20 stitches by 40 after I blocked, which again is definitely off a little bit. But I've almost ruled out in my head the Traveler, using this handspun for the Traveler shell. I'll show you it though. And then I'll talk through why. Okay, so, and this is, a Ravelry warning, that you can look these up independently if you'd like to. The Traveler shell that uses this stitch pattern down here is like a easy throw on, beautiful little pattern that I can really see using a lot when I work from home, when I want a little bit of warmth, but I don't want to overheat. So I think it would be beautiful, but I'm pretty much ruled it out because I think I want to stick with the vision that I cannot get out of my head for this fleece to sweater series I'm doing. So that vision's like this. And just as a reminder, I want like a pretty wide neck here, so almost like it could fall off my shoulder, but not so much that it does all the time. And then a nice deep V, like really deep. And that's the hard part. Like I'm thinking belly button deep almost. And then I have two things here, like so a button or like a shawl pin or sweater pin type thing to close it. And just a couple of them and lower down that go right over my apron belly area that I'm self-conscious of, that I kind of want to hide. So the vision is that it comes down past my apron belly, so, you know, would curl kind of just under my bum or something. Anyways, I'm not the most eloquent here. But I do want sort of a raglan sleeve, not a drop shoulder, and that's been probably the hardest part. And the other hard part about finding a pattern is that a lot of them just come straight down like this. So I actually drew this last time, like a drop shoulder, what it looks like, and then the sort of straight down and around neck. No, that's not what's in my vision that's stuck in my head that I can like see really clearly in my head. But I was shocked at how hard it was to find patterns. So I put it up on my Instagram stories and I put in a question sticker, and between people responding to that and my DMs, I got so many suggestions. So I'll tuck them in a highlight if I remember, which I hope I will. But here are my strongest two contenders right now. The first one is the balloon cardigan. Now I would need to mod this. So let me pull it up on the body here. I do think I would need to pull it down further, but like this sort of rustic vibe on where, I just hit the sweater or hit the tripod, where it's a little bit sheer. That's like exactly what my swatch has. Do you know what I mean? It's like exactly what it has. So this one's a really strong contender for me. The one thing that I didn't really check. Okay, so it's around a DK weight. So it might be better if I do 3-ply for it. But I do like the simplicity of it. The balloon sleeves, I would maybe consider, or maybe I would try one and see what I think. Here's another view of those balloon sleeves. But if not, I'm sure it would be an easy mod to just not bubble up. And then, of course, I would make it longer. So I would be wanting it to hit like down here. So deeper V, which I'm sure I could accomplish by just... I think it's top down. I should check. Yeah, it says right here it's top down. I love being able to find answers easily. So what I would do is I would just, when I'm increasing along the neckline here, I would just increase at a slower rate and put that to aim for like down here. Know what I'm saying? Okay, so that's contender one. And I was pretty set on that. And then today, this one popped into my DMs. And look at this one. So this already has the deep V. And it's maybe the only pattern I found. This is Mistyaire by Amanita Agata Makowitz. Oh, I'm butchering it. You can see it here. And this one is deep V. This one's done with probably negative ease, which means that it's smaller than your actual measurements. So it's like nice and tight. What I'm going for is like the opposite of that. But I do like the shape. I like the sleeves. I like the length. I like the shape. I would just make a much bigger size than what's recommended. I never checked though. See if it is top down, which is great. It's fingering weight. Okay, so I would be looking to do something probably more like this, and I would likely need to mod it based on the gauge I got. I don't want to go down too many needle sizes in this because I don't want it to become rigid. I would like it to keep sort of its rustic nature. So these are my contenders. I would not do this lace bit. I appreciate the detail, just not what I'm looking for. But the rest of it is pretty interesting. So let me know in the comments what you think between the balloon cardigan, if you can sort of see the vision here of making it longer and making the V dip more, and then optionally ballooning on the sleeves. And I know that's heavy mods, but those aren't scary mods to me. Those are ones I'd be willing to play with, and you guys are going to be here with me on the journey while we do it, so it'll be fun. Or if you like Mistyaire, which, let me pull up the really good shot, which already has the deep V, and it's a little lighter weight. So those are the two that I'm between right now. And I think the next step, I need to sit with it for a little bit. I do really lean towards this 2-ply just for the lightness and drapiness, because I'm doing this more for layering than I am for warmth. This one feels really warm, and I love this 3-ply fabric. But, so I feel like I could use either and not go wrong with it. But something's drawing me to the 2-ply, and something was drawing it to me in the skein as well. So like every photo that I have of both of them, that would be the term, I get drawn towards, my eye gets drawn towards this one. So we will see. I might also end up taking multiple patterns and sort of doing what my friend Jackie and I have been talking about as a Franken pattern. So taking pieces, like maybe the body from one and the sleeves and neckline from another. Or I go through and do all the math and just generate exactly what I want, which I feel confident I could do. I've got my swatches, I've got my drawing, and I have my body. So I wouldn't necessarily be able to make it fit for everyone or anything like that. I do not fancy myself a pattern designer. I'm a process knitter and or spinner and or crocheter and or whatever. But I do feel like I could get all the way to drawing up an actual pattern, doing the math, using my swatches, using my body, using my vision, and try a completely custom thing, which would be fun because then I wouldn't feel constrained about sharing any of the pattern with you. When we make things together online, if you go to my knitting process series, like I'm not telling you the steps of the pattern, I'm not giving away details of the pattern because it's not my work to share. But if I'm creating it all myself and going through that thought process, it might be a lot of really talky videos and a lot of videos of me ripping stuff out. But maybe that's even more valuable of trying to go through this whole process together and having you see what I come up against and helping give me ideas for the very many people who are way more knowledgeable than me on this stuff. So this is a really, really, really long video just to say, here are my swatches. I'm obsessed with both of them. I am in love with my idea still. I am so thankful for the community for giving me all these recommendations that I will tuck into a highlight on my Insta so that if you want to go and see what all these recommendations were and get some cardigan inspo, I got you covered. But yeah, I would like to hear your input on which pattern out of those options. So the 3 options, last time I'm going to do it again. Mistyaire, balloon cardigan, both with modifications. Try to design it custom on my own and see how that goes. Those are pretty much the 3 I'm sitting at. The 4th backup is a Franken pattern mishmash of other things. So I'm going to do that. In the meantime, what I think I'm going to do while I wait for your comments below, or you can toss them to me in Insta or whatever you want, I'm going to blend up one small sample just for a color test with extra of this color and just to compare and contrast. So when we come back, I will have selected my pattern. I will have a sample for a color sample spun up, and we'll be ready to calculate how much of this fiber I'm going to need to process and spin and set and all that stuff. So that'll be a fun one. This one was a lot of talking. If you're still here, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.